Well, hello everyone and welcome back to this information series about Total War 3 Kingdoms. And we're going to be talking about characters this video. We touched on the last video, and I was waiting to see what more information we got from E3. I always muck this up a wee bit when it comes to CA and conferences and all that, because they always release like the big juicy bit of information, which in this case is the trailer you see right behind me, just before the conference. And then they use that so that everyone has like seen the juicy bit of new thing, which is in this case the trailer. And then when they go to the conference, everyone's already seen it, everyone's already had time to digest it, so then they can talk to people on a sort of level playing field when they're talking about the new content, because I feel that works quite well. Because when you just see it like a juicy bit of new video footage, the first time you watch it, half the time you're just like, oh my god, it's gonna be so awesome, and you don't have time to digest. But about that 50th time you've watched it, you've digested the information and you're like, oh, look at that, I've never noticed that before. Oh, standard bearers are back. Why did I not notice it? Wait a minute, is that Jugilion and Salsal talking? You know what I mean? You start picking up more wee bits that you missed before, and well, even if you see them the first time, you know what I mean, it's just all glaze, it's going for, you've not had time to digest it, so you sort of have the level playing field to then talk to them. But we're not here to talk about the level playing field of information. I'm just trying to explain my mistake I made once again, and that mistake is, I seen this E3 trailer and I was like, oh my god, I do this every time by the way, we got this before E3, what are we going to be getting at E3? And then all of a sudden, like halfway through the conference, and they're just talking about the stuff they release, I'm like, oh yeah, this is CA, this is how they always do it. And so once again I've made that mistake, and I'm not disappointed, it's just like, oh yeah, like silly me. But, right, that means we don't have a lot of new stuff to talk about, which is why we're talking about characters here. And it's taken me all that time just to explain why we're talking about characters instead of the next juicy new thing. But I'm saying this is the next juicy new thing. Characters. We give a brief recap of what we talked about last time. Characters, much bigger role. Multiple generals per army, or characters per army. They seem to have done away with the, from what I've seen, they seem to have done away with the 2-tier of hero from Total War Warhammer, where you had like the Lord, which led the army, and the heroes, which could join the army or be your agents. It just looks like they've replaced that all with characters. There's just characters. From what I can see, there's nothing to suggest there's the multiple tiers, there's just characters. And you'll have your character that you choose to lead the army, the characters then can be agents or join armies, and yada yada yada. Still recapping from last time, characters have archetypes. You'll have your general sort of archetype, you'll have your like hold the line warrior type archetype, you'll have your strategist archetype, you'll have your legendary killy mads kill tons of people archetype like Lu Bu, and all these sort of archetypes will have different sort of functionalities in the units they can recruit, in their stats and in their skills on the battlefield. For example, the general archetype will be able to fight in melee reasonably well. He's not going to want to get himself, it would be very easy for him to bite off more than he could chew in melee and in fighting, because generals aren't that powerful. But he is really good at like buffing his nearby units. He's really good at leading the men, inspiring them to higher heights, and increasing their morale, that kind of thing. And it's normally a character like this you're going to want to lead the army, that kind of thing, like Salsal in the case of the video you see behind me. And then you're going to have like strategist archetypes, which are going to get access to more sort of support units and are going to have access to like support skills, and they definitely want to stay out of any form of combat because they are giant panzers. and not very good at fighting at all, unlike the two you can see here who are very good at fighting. And so you got all these sort of different types of characters. Obviously you're going to have like the beat sticks, the this, the that, the next thing. Like Shahadun, Lubu, they're obviously going to get access to very sort of killy infantry, going to be very strong in combat themselves. Characters like Sao Ren are going to have access to very heavy infantry and have very good like defensive stats. They're going to be like your anvil units, so you're going to be like, like come fight me, when you've got your characters like Shahadun and Lubu that are going to be like your hammer to their anvil. And yes, but still, we talked about this before. What else do we need to talk about that character-wise? We're going to just talk about all the character information here. And one thing we have oh yes, unique items, as well as characters having been unique themselves. Like there's only one Lubu, obviously. Characters are going to have unique items. And obviously they're going to have gear and equipment as well, which like all new Total War Warhammer, basically. You got equipment, you can like give your character this really good sword, you can give your character this. And then the legendary lords and all that had options to get like named pieces of equipment that were huge, like the best pieces of equipment in the game, but only they could ever have them. Now that is back, except when you kill a character with such an item. You get it from them. Now this leads me to believe that, for example, Lubu, he's going to start off or have access to his unique items very early, whereas in older games, like, older games, Total War Warhammer is essentially the only one that had this feature, sort of, so to speak. Not so to speak, but actually only had this feature. Yeah, I lost my train of thought again. Yeah, these items were only accessed, not sort of late game, but sort of mid to late game. You get access to your first one normally around level 6, and you get access to your last one normally somewhere around 20, or your last mount at 20, 16, that sort of level. So yeah, they were sort of mid to late game gear with the one sort of close to early game. But if you're going to be taking these items from each other, I would expect them to have access early game, especially for characters like Lubu, because I don't see him lasting till late game most games. You know what I mean? Late game I expect to see factions like Wei, Wu and Shu squaring off against each other, maybe Jin forming, and yeah, I expect to see stuff like that. I don't expect to see like late game Lubu taking on Sun Jian, and that's them both finally got their epic gear, and that's them finally got red hair and whatever Sun Jian's sword was called, and yeah, that sort of thing. So it would make more sense to me that these are early game, then Guan Yu can steal red hair, like does in many franchises. Guan Yu's got red hair. He pinches red hair. I wonder if that's where the sort of inspiration for that new sort of mechanic came from, was Guan Yu getting red hair, or someone else getting halberd, or whatever. But yeah, that's a new feature, and it's why I think the characters are going to get their items early as well. Now, the last bit of information we covered last time was the new duel mechanic. Characters are going to be able to duel, and there's not really much to talk about there. You get to see, I'm not even going to bother, I'll skip it to here we go. There we go. Do you see Shahadun and Lubu's duel starting here? Good way to force a conflict, make them unable to escape, or yada yada yada. Not really much to talk about here, dueling. So that's all the information we talked about last time. I've sort of went over it and expanded upon it, talking about it, because this is more like the in-depth talking and looking at characters, whereas last time it was more looking at this trailer behind us as a whole. So we sort of talked about the stuff from last time, and we've sort of elaborated on it, which I've already said about 3 times now, so I'm going to shut up, and I'm going to start talking about the newer stuff. At E3, as I said near the beginning of the video, at E3, CA was talking about this content, and they were doing it as sort of a level, equal, almost equal playing field here, because we'd had time to digest it, and so people were actually asking a lot of nice questions about characters, this, that, and the next thing. And one of the new things is going to be like the loyalty mechanic from Warhammer, except it's not going to be just between the faction and the character. It's going to be between that character and this character, that character and that character, that character, that character, that character, that character, that everywhere. Every character is going to have a bond sort of level with every other character they ever come into contact with. And that is going to be based on stuff like their traits, like how compatible they are as friends, and stuff that happens on the battlefield as well. If your Cao Cao is on the brink of death, like on the battlefield, and is like, oh god, we gotta save Cao Cao, and your Shadun comes charging over and kills the enemies that were about to kill Cao Cao, then their loyalty, their bond is going to increase. If fighting battles together, their bonds increase. Even fighting battles against each other, if sometimes increases their bond, it increases their respect, it increases their... There's just so many ways these characters interact with each other. They come alive. They're not just going to do exactly what we tell them to because we told them to. If they really like that character, that's going to impact how they act in the world, especially on the campaign map. This is also going to impact the actions we take, and it's going to have some unexpected sort of quirks and changes. For example, you spend a good 10 turns there's this character in the enemy faction that's been a real pain in your backside, but you notice that your leader and him are starting to build up a bond of sort of mutual respect. They like fighting each other, they sort of see themselves each other as worthy opponents, and so you sort of play that off a wee bit, and you try and disrupt. Right, I'm gonna just cover these people's names just to make it easier. So like, you're Cao Cao, and you're fighting against Lu Bu and Dong Zhuo. And Cao Cao and Lu Bu are fighting each other a lot, and they're becoming worthy adversaries to each other. Maybe not in fighting each other terms, but they're starting to respect each other's sort of ways of fighting. Like Cao Cao's sort of respecting how Lu Bu's sort of just plowing through his strategies, and Lu Bu's starting to respect how, even with his martial might, Cao Cao's still able to keep the battles equal. And they start respecting each other. They start thinking of each other as a worthy opponent. And this is being a real sort of roadblock in your campaign. No one's making any sort of major advances. You maybe swapped a couple of settlements. You're really at an impasse. The war is going pretty equal at this time. So what you do is you try and play off this new sort of bond, this new respect between Cao Cao and Lu Bu, and you first of all start trying to drive a wedge between Lu Bu and Dong Zhuo, whose Dong Zhuo is the leader above Lu Bu. And so Lu Bu is starting to be on bad terms with his leader. So you then approach Lu Bu and say, we think you'd be much happier in our faction. Why don't you come join me? And that is a thing, that is a new mechanic. You can build up bonds with enemies and get them to join you, but as you've been strategizing, this has been your plan. You're like, we've built a wedge between Dong Zhuo, we've built friendships with Lu Bu, come join us. Yes, we get Lu Bu. Why are we not happy? We've got Lu Bu. Lu Bu's on our side now, but you don't just get Lu Bu. Here comes the quirk. Lu Bu has a really strong bond with Zhuge Liang, another member of Dong Zhuo's faction. So when Lu Bu goes, fuck you, Dong Zhuo, I'm going, I'm leaving, what's it, Zhuge Liang's like, hey, wait for me, bud, I'm coming with you. There's new quirks like that. You could be fighting a battle, everything's going great and you're winning, and what was it, the war's going really well. Then all of a sudden this general over here has a huge argument with your other general that's fighting on the other flag. He's pushing up, taking settlements on each side, and they have a huge argument over something, and one of them ends up then leaving you because he doesn't want to work alongside this other guy he's really not happy fighting with. He hates him. The pair of them really despise each other and want to kill each other. Maybe he accidentally killed his brother or son. So these characters are going to drive everything. The role playing that is going to be possible inside a Total War game is going to be amazing. There's just so much going to be going on. Characters, depth, characters, emotions, characters talking in the middle of a battle. Oh, it is just going to be so amazing. And I've been trying to sort of explain the mechanics in a sort of realistic way so that it's easier to understand. I don't know, maybe I've confused you. Maybe you just want it in plainer terms. You can, in plainer terms, you can ask people to join your factions. Characters can betray people. Characters build up bonds of loyalty which will affect the things that happen. Yeah. It is all going to be so exciting. I can't wait to see the sort of weird stories that come out of this. Like, I don't know, Shao Dun and Guan Yu becoming best buddies, always fighting beside each other. And what was it's just gonna be so weird, especially with some of these characters that you know in the Three Kingdoms books had like strong hates or liking for each other, or just being able to build up. I'm gonna assume there's gonna be some sort of modifier for characters that are meant to hate each other so that they can still become friends. It's just going to be a harder obstacle for them to overcome, and obviously there's going to be this sort of inbuilt sort of traits, that's not what I'm really looking for, sort of natures for your characters. So this guy's gentle, he's nice, he's kind, he's generous. It's going to be really hard for him to become best friends with a character like Dong Zhuo, who's villainous, who's a tyrant, who's money grabbing, who's wanting to build up a huge harem, who's, yeah, you're going to see, it's going to be really hard for characters like that to become friends and their traits, but it will be possible if you really work at it. But it's going to be one of those, it's going to get to the point where it's going to take that long and be that hard, it's worth the reward anymore unless you're really doing something narrative or you really got some strong reason for doing it, which I quite like. So it sort of doesn't stop you from doing whatever you want, it just sort of makes the stupid things less rewarding and harder to do, whilst simultaneously rewarding, like making characters that have similar traits friends and that sort of thing. And there's going to be so many levels you can work at. For example, you want these two generals to be friends, you send them to fight on the same frontier for a while and hope they don't argue, and that sort of thing. This whole game is just going to be amazing. And if you're not convinced this game is going to be amazing, I'm not talking to you ever again. You've got that? You either think this game's going to be amazing or you go away and leave me alone. Not really. I appreciate the views, even if you think I'm a total idiot. I'm a total weirdo and you just think I'm a pile of doo-doo butter. Thanks for the view anyway. Right, anyway, with that all said, I'm just sort of rambling. I'm just sort of being stupid now. I'm just sort of being silly. We should really end this video, but I'm still talking. Why am I still talking? Thanks everyone for watching. I hope you've all enjoyed this. I hope you have found it informative, and I'll try to do it so slightly differently than normal, and try to do it sort of a more sort of immersive sort of standpoint of what the mechanics are going to mean immersion-wise. Because it's characters, the characters is all about immersion. And see, I'm rambling again. Right, hope you've all enjoyed this. I'm not going to allow myself to say anything. I'm not going to allow myself to say anything else. I'm going to end the video here. My button is aiming for the button that's going to turn it off. I'm going to say bye-bye now. Bye-bye. And I'm going to...